so basically, my goal with Google Chromebooks was to flip math to a certain extent because I teach several levels of math, and it ends up taking hours a day, and I would like to do more than teach math. So this also works really well, though, for when you have a substitute, because in the past, I would have the kids do something else because I want to teach math, and no sub can teach the 2 hours of math. So that's how I think it would apply to most of you. So when you go to your teacher toolbox, and how I just started was by watching the tutorials, and when I went to some different training sessions, they talked about the student accountability piece, and so they created like flip notebooks and all kinds of different things. And so I was like, I do not have time to necessarily look for more resources. So I started creating a student accountability piece, and I also will take suggestions from people because there's got to be a better way to do some of this. But basically, one that I have an example for is these are the bake stars, and I chose and watched the video. And then I did a split screen. So I will watch the video, and then I have created a student accountability piece that they follow along in the things that they're typing in. So they have to read the objectives, choose vocabulary words that they think will be important during the lesson, and then as they're watching the video, they fill in the lines. And I would like for someone to teach me how to change this to Google Forms, and they could split their own screens and then turn it in that way. But when we did the first one together, because what I want them to do is if they do not know how to do the math, that they tell me that, and they write how they did it incorrectly, and then they switch it to how to do it correctly. And that has worked really well because they don't understand everything. And so that has let me know then when I am looking through their worksheet that they did not understand how to do that, and they figured out how to do that, and they write me notes if they say, I could not figure this out, or I still don't understand that. So I've gotten through several of the lessons, and this has worked really well. And then when I have had a substitute, they all know exactly what to do. They can go through a math lesson before they do the independent work.
Show me what you mean.
Turn them off. Then I push it out to Google Classroom, obviously. And kids access it, no problem. So these are things that are going well. They love it. It supplements and replaces lessons so that I'm not meeting with 4 or 5 math groups. I can meet with 3 or so. I can tell what the students know because I have that component of the check-in worksheet that goes with it. I've used it pre-teaching, reteaching, and all kinds of ways to differentiate because the Ready Math comes with all the different levels. I've had kids go back to other grade levels if they've missed something. I did have a 2nd grader get on who did not know how to tell time, and took him back to the 1st grade lessons of telling time. And so they did that. And then Mrs. Boyd, who's the 4 or 5 teacher, she's looking up at some of the 7th and 8th grade stuff for kids who already know some things and she needs more enrichment. So then she can push this out that way. There are the short, boring tutorials that are those yellow and blue ones, and so I do not make anything for those. And it's been easy to use, and I can use all of this next year. That's what's been great. Things that have not gone as well, we have not figured out a way to use those videos so they can back up just a little bit. So that's a problem. Some of the videos take them up to 40 minutes to complete. You're all nodding your heads. Good. So these are not just my problem. And then this is a mess. I have not found a good way. I'm getting better now that I've figured out Ready Math and how they label their lessons and things like that. But I have to go back and kind of relabel and reorganize everything because it did not work well. And I do not like how every time I make an assignment through Google, even if it does not have some piece for them to turn into me that keeps creating those, it's just an annoyance. But for people who don't like lots of different folders and things to mess with, in my building I can see that. It's taken me hours of prep to make those little student worksheets. So I'm looking for another way to hold students accountable other than doing that. And so these are things I need. Sometimes, and then Devin was talking about this, when I just go through Google Docs, I cannot find the document, even if I've labeled it and tried to drop it in my drive, and so I have stuff out in space somewhere that I have lost. So if anybody knows how to do that, I find them in Recent. And then how could I turn these worksheets that I've made into Google Forms and push those out with the video so that it gets turned into me digitally? So options. But this has changed my world for math as far as having so many groups and so many levels. And I know not every classroom has that, and with a substitute. So when I was gone at a conference for 2 days, math continued, and that did not used to happen. We would just lose that time.